Alright, so here we are at part 2 of UV. So you've saved your UV, and you go to your projects, and here are all of your file folders. Well, you want to go to images, because that's where things output to. And source images is where it inputs from. So when you open up files, image files in Maya, you tend to go to source images, and when you're saving things out, you go to images. So let's go to images, and here's my box test texture UV. I'm going to just drag and drop it on in to Photoshop here, and it's not a lot, as you can see. It's because it's a white line, so it's probably very hard to see. We'll go ahead. I saved it as a PNG, that's why it's got a alpha layer in the background, which it means there's no background, which is nice. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I guess it's kind of amusing because I'm about to make a background layer that I can but I can control it, so I like that. So let's put that in. It'll be black. Black is just the easiest to see. There's that line. And we're going to go ahead and set this top one to screen. And let's do one more. I'll duplicate it. There we go. Just kind of brightens it up a little. And you can see those lines now. And we've got our full 2048 resolution. So it doesn't really matter what I put in here. In this case, it's a box. So just about whatever is fine. So let's just make something real kind of straightforward and simple. Oh, we'll make our own layer too, so we can draw on stuff. Oops, sorry. Right. So here is my draw layer. Remember, the other two are just top screen UVs, something like that. Doesn't really matter. They're just there to let me know my borders. So yeah, let's get back here. And we could do something really simple. I'm just going to make something simple to show you an example of what's going on here. Let's make sort of a lighter sort of setup. This will just be a little quick, simple, handmade box. Let's inverse these. Drop some darker stuff down here. It's not quite dark enough. It's not quite brown enough for me. Okay. And since I've got it here, I'm just going to go ahead and play around a little bit with sort of giving it some pretend shading. So I'll just go, let's go to the gradient tool down here, and we'll just select the something to clear, foreground to transparent. So if I make this foreground, I'm going to go ahead and I'll make a multiply layer. This is basically kind of what I'm starting to do some texturing and some shading here. So if I kind of go here and I kind of go here, right, it's going to kind of create the illusion that there's maybe some darkening, and let's go ahead and inverse that. I still have this selection up. Let's make that not a circle anymore. Let's make it just to draw a straight line up, right? And then let's go and do our highlight layer. You know, we're pretending like we're making something. This is generally the approach you'd want to use anyhow. I'm gonna go ahead and get this top here. You would want to have this nice little sort of shading effect going on. You'd want a screen for your highlights. You'd want to darken for your lows, your dark shadows, because it's easy to manipulate them then when you go back into Maya. So let's go here and let's give a highlight down here. Oopsie, too much. Too much. You know, let's do that radial. I like that. There we go. Alright, so let's say this is generally, and just for another sample of kind of how I like to do stuff, let's go ahead and get a nice dark fill line in here, hit OK. And I'm just working with a mouse at the moment, holding down shift and stuff like that. Here's a shift hold, click and shift. Oh, sorry, I'm on that screen layer, so nothing's going to show up. Let's go to the multiply layer. And that's too light. What do I got? A 60. And, okay. Turn off all shape dynamics. That's still really light. And I don't want it to be that light. Well, let's make our own layer for it then. Oops, sorry. One more layer. And... pretty not dark. It's always something. There's always something. So why is it? There we go. Don't know why, but it was nice and dark for some reason. Right. Pop this down here. And there's better ways to probably do this. Technically, using the rulers, dragging the rulers out, and just sort of setting them on the edge of something is better. But I don't like that because look, it's gonna snap, and then it gets all messy. So I don't personally care to use them. I'll just hand eyeball it and shift and drag. You can always do a little bit of cleanup. That's the cool thing about doing this on its own layer is you can always clean up. So, that didn't really add too much more to it, I guess. We could do a little of this. Remember, this is supposed to be a little box, so I am putting a little more effort. This is just sort of a real simple handcrafted texture. Super simple. So there we go. So now you can kind of feel like there's something going on with this. And if we really wanted to, we could even go in here and do like a little, some kind of, I don't know, probably shadow. Let's do a shadow. Drop shadow. And what I'll do is I'll change it to an overlay. Or a screen maybe. And kick that up. No. I don't like it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's just do probably nothing. A stroke maybe, but probably nothing. And the stroke could be also, I'm trying to make a little highlight line. Kill that opacity way down. And maybe increase the stroke size. Maybe. I don't know if I like that either. Doesn't necessarily fit. But, yeah. Something would be nice. Like a hand-drawn kind of highlight would be nice. If I go back to screen. It's a little too strong, though. So whatever, it's fine. I won't worry about it. But the more you kind of build the highlights and shadows, the more you'll have a believable sort of lighting effect. And this is essentially kind of what normal maps are trying to do, is create this sense of like that there is highlights and there's sort of a texture to it. And I like it. It does lend itself to a more cartoony kind of feel, but it's pleasant. nonetheless, yeah, I wouldn't be a highlight up on there. But you could do it like a darkening. So let's go back to the multiply layer and grab some of this brown. I should double down on the darken. Dark's always a little harder to lay on, so I've upped it from that 20% opacity up to like a 50. But see how now we're getting sort of a sense of kind of like depth here. Right. It's very subtle. Try to make that much higher. That's funny. Oh well, we don't really need it for the rest of this. I'm just messing around because I like it. So there we go, a little bit of depth on the bottom side and a little bit of light on the top side. And then if you wanted to get really crazy, you could do all sorts of other things, like add like little wooden slats across the way, as it were, right? Build that up. Or you could go find some textures and slap them in there. Hand painted textures look so cool though. This is a nice base. If I wanted, I could start putting wooden slats in. So let's take this, and now here's what I'm gonna do. Make sure to turn off the other layers. Naming these would be good too. Let's go ahead and save as. I'm gonna go ahead and leave this PSD in the images. But I am going to save as and go up and go to source images and drop the actual. In this case, I'm just going to make it a simple PNG. I'm going to save it in here. Right? Okay, now we're ready to go on back to Maya. And I'm going to make another shader, and I'll call this one my. Well, remember, right click, hold down, rename, and we'll name this one the wood texture shader, or I don't know, box shader 001, the first box shader I'm making. I'll probably have other revisions. You know, if I kept going, I would have maybe another one. The box should be named too, you know, in the outliner, but. Box. Let's call it poly box. Okay, so there you go. Let's go ahead and select our box, make sure that it's in object mode, right click on this, assign to material. So now my box shader is on there. And when I double click on my box shader, I'm going to go to color. This time, instead of just selecting whatever, I'm going to select file. And I get this option to put something in here, right? So let's go ahead. Box shader. Cube. You can get to it by just tabbing over like I just did there. And there is my box texture UV. I should rename that. We don't want it to be called UV. Actually, we want to go to we're gonna go to source images. See how it went. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's just select it. I should have changed that UV at the end there, but and the trust me. Okay, so like it looks like I'm being completely box texture 001. Looks like I'm being OCD, but you kind of gotta be here. Okay, so let's open that, and there it is. There you go. Now my box has its shader on it, right? And looks pretty decent. It's got the looks like a box. And if we go and we look at the UV for it, there you go. And that is the importance of using UVs, and why textures, how textures apply, how you do images, and how you apply them then to your 3D geometry.